Today, we're discussing Parsha Lekh. We're going to start with a prayer merging the heavens and earth, which is perfect for this Parsha. Hashem Yakud Kudusha Brihu Ushinate Bi'lu Ertmu Layad Shemuke Bavavke Biyudar Shalom Hashem Kuzriel Kolam. Amen. Lekh is a message of enlightenment that Abraham received from God. What's it mean? Go to the self. Literally, go to the self. It couldn't be any clearer. It's a message of enlightenment. Leave your family, leave your country, really leave all your belief systems. Now, it doesn't mean literally leave your family. What it means is leave all the concepts you developed that you learned from your family, that you learned from your parents, and go beyond. So Abraham starts this process very profoundly because he challenges his father's idol worship. This is a great story. He's left in, his father was an idol maker. And so somebody came in with some flowers, an offering, and Abraham took a stick and broke all the idols, and except for the big idol, and put a stick in his hand. And when his father came home, he said, "What happened?" And Abraham said, "Well, what happened is somebody gave a flower offering, and the big idol, there was a big battle, and the big idol took a stick and destroyed all the other idols." And his father said, "What? Who are you kidding? Idols can't think, they can't talk, and they can't act." And then Abraham said, "Listen to yourself. You are building idols for people to pray to? They can't think, they can't talk, and they can't act? There's nothing to idol worship. This is not what God wants us to do. God only wants us to worship God directly." Well, that caused a little bit of trouble. And before we get there, I have to say that Abraham at the age of 75 has been empowered by God. He has a direct experience. Now, people knew in those days about the one God, okay? But they didn't necessarily know about the merging of heavens and earth and about the inner God. It's Abraham that integrated the inner God. And that was the huge breakthrough. And that's why he's called a boundary crosser, or an Ivri boundary crosser. It wasn't just because he crossed the river from Kasidim to go to the Promised Land. He was a spiritual boundary crosser. He freed everyone in the process. Okay? And that was his work, to walk before God and be whole, be a real boundary crosser. And so he because of that, Nimrod, who was the leader and who was the capture of minds, really the first New World Order person was Nimrod. And actually some prophecy is that Nimrod will incarnate and become in a sense, the Antichrist. That being said, Nimrod challenges him. "Don't you know I'm God? Don't you know I can do everything?" And Abraham kind of said, "Fine. Tomorrow, we know the sun rises in the east. Tomorrow, you make it rise in the west. Then I'll believe you." Of course, Nimrod got furious with that because he actually showed the hypocrisy, the big lie of the New World Government called Nimrod at that time. And they threw him in the fiery furnace, and it was so hot that even the soldiers around burned up. But Abraham was fine. He left, and then he came out, and at that point he realized he needed to move out of town, so to speak, out of the space. So that began the journeys of Lekha. Now I'm kind of relating to it because I have now left Patagonia, Arizona, on my way to the Promised Land. literally, on my way to the promised land, on my way to Israel. Now the promised land, in actual Hebrew, means the land where you will go deeper into your spiritual awareness, where you have a deeper liberation awareness, where you'll reach your highest potential. And actually, where we're looking could be a place where, for me, North Node, which is, again, place of highest potential. So it's like, oh my gosh, we're looking at going to a place to reach our highest potential. That is awesome when we look at the whole thing. Now, so Abraham is told to go to the south. He also is told for God to lead him to the promised land. He gets to the promised land, and they start to settle in, and then they have a huge famine. So he goes down into Egypt. And Abraham's pretty clever, and he knows that Sarah's very beautiful. And so he says, Sarah, just say that we're cousins. And that you're my sister, actually. And so that happens, but then it gets very clear as all kinds of disasters happen to Pharaoh, and as really the plagues begin to happen. And then he looks out the window and he sees Abraham with a shamanic symbol, and he realizes, oh wow, this is Abraham. This is his wife, and I need to give him gifts and ask him to leave. But what we got here is Abraham was not just an enlightened person, he was a very, very powerful shaman. And that's very much part of the whole walk, between the Bulima, between the nothing and the something. And so Abraham and his nephew Lot leave, obviously with Sarah, but it seems that Lot during this time has gotten a little confused and has kind of gone a little bit to the dark side. So Abraham says, look, I love you, you're good, but we can't be together because you're not on the same frequency. So he says, if you go this way, I'll go that way. If you go that way, I'll go this way. So Lot moves down to Sodom. Okay? And Abraham moves more to Hebron. Now what's really happening here is that Abraham is seeing really what's going to happen in the future. He is a shaman, and so he ultimately, the four kings of the north come down and capture Lot and defeat Sodom, and and he takes his 316 warriors and defeats the four kings. Now he defeats the four kings, and something very interesting happens. God appears to him again and gives him a shield to protect him from the four kings. And that shield is what we now know as the Star of David, which is a symbol of liberation. The higher triangle coming down, merging with the lower triangle coming up, and there's a merging here. And in the center is the emptiness. Okay, so now he's got a symbol, which is a shield, which is the shield of God and the emptiness. And the emptiness, the bitul ha'esh, that we talk about as we go deeper into meditation. So he's got the shamanic powers, he's got the power of God, he's got the power, or has been imbued with the teaching and power of merging the heavens and earth. Seeing God in all things. Great revelation. We call it Yehudim, to unify the heavens and earth. So he's doing that at the same time. All this is going on, and there's only one problem. He and Sarah can't have children, aren't having children. And God takes him outside the tent. Now, outside the tent is symbolic of meaning outside the limitations of our thinking, outside the limitations of who we think we are, and says, these will be your descendants. And it's like, right? I don't even have a child. How's that going to happen? So there's another shamanic process he goes through, which is circumcision. And changing their names. Sari is to Sarah, Abraham goes to Abraham, and so now another shamanic thing, transformation. The circumcision is very significant, because for reproduction there really needs, in the tree of life, you showed, which is the second chakra, the phallus needs to be purified so all the negativities are cleared, and now they have a child. Okay, and that whole process happens in this very shamanic, powerful way. So Abraham has brought many very important things that really, I call it the 10 trials of Abraham. And so he's gone to the self, he's gone to the promised land, he's defeated the forces of darkness. Shamanically, they've overcome and created a miracle in which they can have children through the act of the blood. Okay, I want to explain. The blood is critical here. It's the blood sacrifice that unifies him with God, is what the circumcision is about. It's the covenant with God. So now he's done that, and then he now is empowered, and he's a boundary crosser. He's really moved into liberation. He's gone to the promised land, and most important in a way, God says you'll walk before me and be a blessing for the world, not just for his local family, for the world, and that's activated when he is at the promised land. We also know people understood his shamanic and spiritual greatness, and allowed him to choose the cave of at Hebron, cave, the Machpelah. But Machpelah turns out to be a special pathway, as we know all over the world we see, into the center of the earth, into Jerusalem, and that's where he's buried. I've been there a variety of times, taking in that powerful liberation and shamanic energy. So I'm a little more than excited. I've had 3 visions of Abraham, one in 2003, where I was really encouraged to go more let's say, beyond limitations and begin the journey to Israel, which is where actually I'm going. Shanti and I are going to the promised land. We are leaving Lekha. This couldn't be even more powerful, okay? Lekha. We don't know what's going to happen, but either did Abraham. And so that is the journey of our life. The journey of liberation is not for safety and security. It's to go Lekha and follow the way of God, transcending every boundary crosser, all our boundaries, all our limitations, all ideas and training we have from our past, so that we're not controlled by them. We're to step outside the tent, which is what I mean by stepping outside the tent, means outside your programming, so that we can wake up to the way of God in our life, to become one with God, to merge the heavens and earth, and in that way move towards the promised land, which metaphorically is liberation within us. So may you be blessed with that. Be blessed with that deep understanding. But may you also be blessed with the courage of Abraham. Those 10 trials were not easy. Circumcising himself was not easy, okay? But he had to pass through those trials. His 318 men had to defeat the 4 armies. He was always pushed to his limit, going beyond his limitations, out of his comfort zone. So may everyone be blessed with the spiritual courage of Abraham, with the divine insight of merging the heavens and the earth, the Yehudim, and may you all be blessed become an Ivri, a boundary crosser, crossing into the land of liberation. Blessings to everyone, and very soon I will be talking from the physical land of liberation. Peace be with you. Shalom, shalom, shalom.